Hello, Serious Survivor here. And we've seen recently in the last few days, on July 27th, I believe it was, that the announcement was made that all VA, Veterans Affairs employees must now have the vaccination or they'll suffer severe consequences. And the reprimands or consequences they can suffer could be up to termination, removal from the job, unpaid leave, and things such as that. The Biden administration has also announced that all government employees and contractors will be required to have the vaccination or to subject themselves to COVID tests on a very regular basis. And this is probably going to mean every day or every other day until these people get tired of taking it and then succumb to the pressure of the vaccination. And this isn't the only thing. We've been hearing about hospitals, about healthcare places, about doctor's office, dentist office, locations like that, in which a lot of companies are requiring their employees to have this untested vaccine or this unproven vaccine. Well, let me rephrase. There have been some things proven about it, but those things we can't talk about on YouTube. But fortunately for the new website, SeriousSurvivors.com, and that's survivors with an S, will be up and running this Saturday, and I'm hoping that everyone is pretty excited about that because I am. And this will be a true free speech platform, and this will be a platform that we can network with others. I've been working really hard on this, and that's one of the reasons my video output over the last few days has been slacking off, I guess you would say, is because I've been putting in a lot of time and effort and money to getting this going because I want it to be very secure for everyone. But we'll talk more about that. Going to do a live stream Saturday, and my goal is during that live stream to actually bring this new website live, so those who watch the live stream will be able to register in real time as we walk through the registration process, and I show people the different features and the different aspects of the sites. And I also want to take notes on what people tell me on ways to improve the site and to ways to make it better for everyone, and that's the whole goal of it. But that's a different subject we're going to talk about later. And what I was wanting to talk about here is the mandatory vaccines. There are a lot of companies out there that are starting to really push towards the mandatory vaccine for the everyday workers. Now, if we think about the mandatory vaccines and how the all employees in New York City now must have the mandatory vaccine, at least city employees, government employees. And now we're seeing the federal government make a push towards that also, with requiring mandatory vaccines and or mandatory testing, probably on a daily or every other day basis. And this is showing us exactly where this is headed. I don't think it's a surprise or a secret in anybody's mind that we are going to see mandatory vaccines probably by the end of the year, because there's so much talk about the new variants that we've been hearing about, how so many cases are of these new variants and how the new variants are more contagious, and apparently the vaccine isn't stopping the new variants. So it's really confusing as to why this would be pushed so hard for us to have a vaccine that doesn't stop the new types of variants that we see coming out, especially when you look at the reports from the UK, in which 60% of their hospitalization cases were the new variants of this, and they were the people who had the vaccine. So the information is out there, and although it's hard to find, but with the new website, and this free website to use, but with the new website, we're going to be able to talk about this freely. Because since it would be, technically speaking, my site, I own the domain, I own everything with it, then I'm not going to restrict what you talk about. I want the information to get out there because this is very important information. A lot of people aren't aware that even companies such as the company I work for, which is a pretty large company, is toying that same idea right now. Their words are strongly encouraging all employees to get the vaccine. And, I'm not a guinea pig, and I don't think you are either. But this is not something that's just going to suddenly slow down, especially with what we're seeing in the news, and they keep talking about increases in cases, more spreading of different variants. They're not just going to give up on this vaccine that for some reason they're so determined for everyone to get, that This isn't going away, and it's getting worse day by day. Every time I turn on the news and every time I start investigating and researching every day, I'm seeing more and more of this. More companies that are pushing the vaccine. I'm seeing more companies that are requiring it. And what we're going to see here pretty soon is that digital passport, the digital ID, is going to be enacted. And those who've had it, of course, that'll be recorded on their digital ID. And those who do not want this digital ID, or this, what I call mark, then those are going to be the ones that are shunned, and those are going to be the ones that are basically not going to be able to work before long. We're seeing this enacted right now. This isn't something we got to worry about 3, 4, 5 years from now. This is something we got to worry about 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, because this is growing on a daily basis and it's not going away. And for those that have been keeping up with it, which I know a lot of you have, we see the push for this. We see the way that it's being forced on everyone, basically. And there are even reports of children being vaccinated in schools without their parents' approval. And that in itself is disturbing. And we're seeing that trend continue, and we're seeing that trend line go upwards. It's not going down. This push isn't going away. And this is the time that we really have to focus on where we stand, who we're going to stand with, and how we're going to make that stand. And we can't do that on normal platforms. And that was the whole reason I created this new site that will be live this weekend. And this new site will allow us to talk with each other, to group together, to create networks, and to express our opinions about whatever we want to express our opinion about. It's true free speech and a true networking platform for preppers, survivalists, and even, as they label some of us, conspiracy theorists. But we will be able to express our opinions with those who do feel the same way. Learn as much as we can. It's all about knowledge. We're not going to be able to defeat this problem unless we have the right knowledge and unless we have the right networks in place. But this is coming. The vaccine is going to be mandatory. I think we all see that coming up very soon. They may not forcibly make it mandatory, but they'll make it mandatory if you want to buy food, if you want to work a job, if you want to travel out of the local town you're in to another town. Forget about getting on a plane, train, or boat. That's going to be out of the question most likely. A lot of our leaders, if you want to call them that, a lot of the governors in a lot of states are fighting against this. But in the end, what we know, what we've seen, is the federal government will win those battles. And we're looking at this mandatory vaccine. It's going to be in place probably before the end of the year, or at the very latest the beginning of next year. So now's the time we need to make sure we have what we need. And you have to ask yourself the questions like, can I survive in my home for 6 months to a year if I have no access to money, no access to food, no access to medical? And that's the things we really need to think about. We're going to be talking a lot more about this. I got a lot more videos coming out this week, but I also wanted to mention the new website because it's coming along really good. Got a lot of time in it right now. Had a few people reach out to me wanting to help, and I'm going to, definitely accept their help, and I really appreciate that. Everyone that's reached out to me to help on this, because this is a community that's not for me. This is a community that's for us. It's a way that we can communicate. We can make friends. We can enlarge our families, create groups, create networks, formulate plans that will allow us to react when the worst does come. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that this morning. But I do believe the mandatory is coming. I believe it's coming very soon, and I think a lot of you are on the same wavelength as me on that. And we have to we have to figure out what are we going to do when it comes to that point. Well, thanks a lot for watching. God bless. For now, Serious Survivor, out.